everyone, AJ from Level Up Your Guitar. So we are gonna go over the song Sirius and Eye in the Sky from
the Alan Parsons Project.
This is a really great song for beginners if you haven't done any power chords or you're just getting started. The reason I like this song is it has 4 power chord shapes that are very simple. It's really all just one chord, but using different fingers. I'll explain why later. It's got a simple 8th note rhythm all the way through, palm muting, 1 spicy jazz chord at the end, and then a really cool moody solo. Let's jump into that. So the beginning, we'll call this the melody. This is actually a synthesizer part arranged for guitar. So we've got index finger on the 2nd string 5th fret, ring finger on the 7th fret on the 2nd string, and then use the pinky for this 7th fret note on the 1st string. Index, ring, pinky, and then followed by the 2nd string open. So you have 5, 7, 7, open. Followed by almost an exact repeat. You go 5, 7, and then index on 5 on the high E string, followed by another open. So putting that all together. So you want to think of this as a 4-bar phrase. So it's going to repeat 4 times. And it'll repeat that phrase 2 times until it moves on to the next section. And feel free to, add some delay to this. You can downpick everything here. And when you get to the palm muting portion, just all you have to do is take the heel of your hand here and just lightly graze just a little bit into about the width of a pencil. You don't have to cover up much of the strings here. So you get a nice percussive sound, but it's not over muting. Keep your hand really relaxed there. Then we can go into the section, I just call this the whole note section. The sheet music will be in the description. You can download that for free. And now we'll get into our power chord shape. So let's check that out. So we've got a B5 power chord starting on the low E string. So index goes on the 7th fret, ring finger goes on the A string, 9th fret, and then pinky right underneath that on the D string, 9th fret. So this is a great way to get started because he's playing a whole note that's tied to another whole note. So you've got 8 beats in total to play this. You don't have to feel rushed if this is your introduction into power chords. So we'll go 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. That's it. You have your tied whole notes. From there we move on to a G5, so we can just take our same shape and move it down until our index finger hits the 3rd fret. So we'll be on 3, 5, 5. Same shape, index, ring, and pinky. So again, tied whole notes for 8 beats. Then the next one, we'll break that shape just a little bit into the E5. So that's the E string open, index finger, A string on the 2nd fret, and then underneath that, again with the index finger, you'll do a little mini bar right here on the D string. So again, we have another tied whole notes here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we return back to the B5 in the 7th fret. So I'll play that through with the repeats. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. G5. 2, 3, 4. 2, 3, 4. E5. 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. Back to B5. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, repeat. And that's the whole note section. So then we're going to move on to what I call just the rhythm section, and now we'll bring back the palm muting. You'll want to use a clean tone for this, so we are jumping up and back between a couple different tones. If you want to get it to sound as close to the record as possible. So here with our power chords, we're going to actually minimize it down and give the rest of the band a little more space by just doing 2-note power chords. So now we've got index again for this B5 power chord on the 7th fret of the E string. And what I would recommend here is using the pinky to play this A string 9th fret. And the reason why, you can see if you're looking at the sheet music, we're staying on the same strings. And in my opinion, something I learned from playing a lot of Metallica, when you have power chords that are kind of like on train tracks, you're not moving to different strings, you stay on the same strings. The ring finger, even though that's probably a stronger finger for you if you're a beginner, it will put a little bit extra tension on the back of your hand. So if you swap out to your pinky, which is weaker, you'll find that the back of your hand relaxes more. Let's jump into that. So here we've got straight 8th notes, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So, and with palm muting. So that's the first measure of the B5 chord. Now I'll string together the second. From there we'll move again down to the G5. This is the same chord progression, just with a different rhythm. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Then we move on to E. So that's just open and index on the A string 2nd fret. And back to B5 in the 7th fret. So if you're looking at the sheet music, there's no repeat sign in this section. It's just played once. 3, 4. So that gets us through this rhythm section. Now this goes into the solo. We'll come back to that at the end when we've covered all the rhythm parts. So during the solo, if you want to just play through this, now that rhythm section that we just learned, you can just play the same thing during the solo and you'll be fine. So once you've done that and you've gone through your B5, G5, E5, and then you're back at the B5 at the end of the guitar solo, now the song is morphing from Sirius to Eye in the Sky, and now what we can do is we can reposition into the 2nd fret B5. So now you're going to get 2 different B5s on different strings. So still with palm muting. So now your index finger will be on the A string 2nd fret, and pinky will be on the D string 4th fret. And again, straight 8th notes, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and for 2 measures. 3, 4. Then we go to G5, just up and over into the 3rd fret with the index and pinky on the 5th fret. So this part has repeat signs around it, so I'll demonstrate that. 3, 4. Repeat. So there goes the introduction of Eye in the Sky. Now we're going to go into the verse. So a few more chords going on in this section and a few points where we'll use some different fingers to play these power chords just for some smoother transitions. So we've got D5, index finger on the A string, 5th fret, and then pinky on the D string, 7th fret. And again, palm muting all the way through. So we've got the first measure, straight 8th notes, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Then we go into the second measure, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. You're gonna palm mute the 5th string open. So that one note on the and of 4, it's simple to play, but it might be tricky if you haven't done something like this. The benefit you get from doing that, and you can hear it on the record, it gives you that little moment where you can transition into the B5 that we played earlier in the 2nd fret. So I'll demonstrate that. 3, 4. So even just practicing up to that point where you make your first chord transition is very helpful if this is new to you. So now I'll play through both measures of the B5. 3, 4. So there I went ahead onto the second line of the verse, which is the exact same. So you've got D5 for 2 measures with that open A note, palm muted, on the and of 4 going into the B5 for 2 measures. From there, now we'll go to the G5 power chord. So index on the 3rd fret of the E string, pinky on the A string, 5th fret. So we've got 2 measures of this, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Then we go the 3rd measure back to B5, the 2nd fret, 2nd and 4th fret on the A and D strings for 1 measure. Now here's a cool trick from this B5 and in the next measure, the E5. So your index finger's already on this B note on the A string, 2nd fret. Well, the highest note of your E5 chord is that same note, so that index finger doesn't have to move at all. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 into the E5. So now I'll play the B5 and the E5 together. So it's a nice smooth transition. You'll see that a lot. So I'll start at the beginning of that line, the G5, B5, and E5. 3, 4. And that brings us into the last line of the verse. We return to D5 for 8th notes. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Now here's a trick that I think helps transition a little bit better, and it gets you used to, we've been doing this power chord shape with the index and pinky, but to get to this G5, you can certainly go from pinky to pinky here, but I feel like that jump, you might get just a tiny bit of noise that is unwanted. So I think you get a smoother transition by going from this D5 to G5 with the index and ring. So again, you don't have to do this, but I like doing this. So we'll do, and then after that G5, it goes back to the D5 for 2 measures. So I'll demonstrate just this whole line since there's only 2 chords going on. 3, 4. One more time. 3, 4, D5. Ring finger G5. Back to pinky D5. And that's the end of the verse, and then it goes straight into the chorus. still hanging on this D5, so we don't have to change anything. So we've got 2 measures of D5 coming up, all 8th notes. Then we're going to go to an F sharp and do that same maneuver from going D5 with the pinky to F sharp 5 with the ring finger. So 3, 4. Now this one has repeats, so if you're following along on the sheet music, I'll do the D to the F sharp, and then I'll include the G5. 1, 2, 3, 4. Repeat. So on this G5 measure, you'll be basically just, you won't be sliding, but you'll move very quickly from the F sharp 5 to the G5, G5. Then we've got this spicy G minor 6 chord. So if you haven't done any jazz chords, here's your first introduction. Sounds very cool. So we've got index and ring on the G5, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. And on the and to 4, you're going to move the middle finger to the G note on the low E string, 3rd fret. That middle finger is going to mute the A string, index on the D string, 2nd fret, and then ring finger on the G string, 3rd fret. So it should sound 3, mute, 2, 3. Sounds super cool. It's a nice contrast from all this power chord stuff to get something this dissonant. So I'll demonstrate this G5 to G minor 6. 3, 4. And you're gonna let that ring basically for 4 beats. The last beat of the next measure is an open A note. But let's go over that a few more times. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 2, 3, 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 2, 3, 4 and. So on that and to 4, you can play that open A string again, which will help you transition back into the B5 chord at the intro of Eye in the Sky. So those are all of the parts that you need for the rhythm parts. And we still have a solo to go through, but at the top of the sheet music, you can see I've labeled everything: M for melody, W for whole notes, R for rhythm, S for solo, and then you got your verse chorus. So at the top you'll see the arrangement order, and you can follow that as kind of your quick map to that. So now we'll actually get to the solo. This has a really sweet solo. I like this one. It's not too hard. Has some really great elements that you'll use a bunch of times if this is one of your first solos. It's definitely manageable. So I'll demonstrate this solo first. All right, let's jump into it. So it starts on the 2nd string, 5th fret, with your index finger with a hammer on. Now here is probably actually the trickiest part of this solo, is getting out of this hammer on and then repositioning to the 7 on the high E string. So we've got a hammer on, and then the 7 right after. So if you need to practice that maneuver a few times. So we've got the hammer on, and then we've got 7 on the E string, 7 on the B string. And then ring finger can play this 9 here. So that's the first measure, and then the second measure is a whole note bend on this 9th fret. Also, take your time with the bend. When you play this, it doesn't just go straight for it. It slowly ramps up into that bend. And then you mute it, then you've got 2 beats of rest, followed by another bend on the 9th fret. So this bend kind of has that shark fin look to it, so you want to get that where you bend it up and then you drag it back down and then you play the 7. Be sure not to do a pull off here. You can hear the pick attack in the recording. It's very common, even when I was practicing this, I was doing pull offs because I just naturally do that sort of thing. So right when you bend and bring it back to neutral, that's when you play the 7. After that bend to 7, then you'll use the ring finger to do a grace note slide. So this isn't a normal slide where you take your time, make sure that each note is even. This is an instantaneous slide. Onto the second line in the next measure. Now we start this next phrase on the B string 7th fret, but you notice there's a little slash there. Yes, it's a slide, but this is a slide from below. The way I generally describe a slide from below is where you really kind of start from anywhere. It's not like the previous slide where it's very clearly indicated 10 to 12. This is just coming from nowhere. So in context, we just left the 10 to 12. So now you're gonna reset and you want to slide with the index finger. And generally with the motion of your hand, you can kind of find like a good starting point. Slid too far. So my finger is engaging about at the 4th fret. I'm starting around the 3rd fret, but I don't actually like start making contact with the string. And then it's just a very quick slide into that 7th fret. So we've got that slide into 7. So you got the slide into 7, roll your finger into the next 7, ring finger on 9. Those 3 notes are a good place to start. Then you're going to go to the 10th fret and reposition with the index finger on the 10th fret, ring finger on 12, and that sets you up for using the ring finger again on this 12 to bend it. And then when you drag it back down to neutral, you hit the 10 again. And then another bend at the 12th fret with the ring finger. So that's a much longer bend, 2 half notes tied. Then you're going to reposition again with the ring finger on the high E string, 14th fret. And then we have another slide from below with the index finger into the same note. So it's 14 with the ring, and then a slide from below with the index finger. So once you've done that, then that repositions you to grab the 17 on the B string, again with the ring finger, then index on 15, and then ring finger on the 17th fret, whole note, big bend. So doing that last phrase together, it's ring on 14, slide from below to the same note, reposition ring finger to 17, 15, bend on 17 on the E string. So I'll demonstrate this whole second line of the solo. and then the whole solo all together. Alright, so that's the entire song, Sirius and Eye in the Sky. We hit the melody with the palm muting, the whole notes with the 3-finger power chords, index, ring, pinky. We also hit the different shapes, the 2-string power chords with index and pinky, index, ring, and then the single finger E5 power chord, as well as, just doing 8th notes all the way through, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and, with the palm muting. You got a cool jazz chord out of the deal, and then a fairly simple solo. It's got some really great articulations between, the Hammer-Ons, the grace note slide, the slide from below, and some bending in there. So really great stuff, and the tempo isn't too fast on this. So, I think most beginners, if you've been playing for a couple months, you should be able to handle this. This is a really good one. I love this for a first power chord song. Also, check the description. You'll find a link to my website where you can download this sheet music as well as any other song I've taught on my channel. Leave a like, comment what you think about this one, what you want to see in the future, subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next video. Peace out.